Hey, what is going on, everybody? We are here to talk about House of the Dragon episode 4, and this one took me a long time, I'm not gonna lie, to process. I really had to let this one weigh on me, guys. I had a lot of really interesting thoughts about this one that I would really like to give to you guys here. So, I mean, the way this episode started, honestly, I kind of was like, wow, there's actually redemption for Daemon. This starts out really well for Daemon, honestly. It starts one way, kind of ends a different way for Daemon. I mean, Daemon, honestly, is kind of going through some real trials and tribulations here, and he's really put up with the test of, can he do the right thing and stay correct the way that he started out? I mean, him and Viserys really had a big redeeming moment together where it looked like Daemon was actually going to be redeemed, and I was like, okay, that's not Daemon, and we should know better by now. We should honestly know at this point that Daemon's not going to stay good. Daemon's going to keep falling down the stairs. I think I said that in my episodes 1 through 3 thoughts, where I was like, it's like watching this guy fall down the stairs week by week, and it's still the same thing. This episode was no exception, because what happened with him and Rhaenyra was so interesting to me, and wow, it was shocking, honestly. Like, I knew Daemon was not a good guy and that he was gonna just continue to corrupt. Man, I was not expecting them to engage in what they engaged in. They go to this brothel, right, and basically he tries to have intercourse with her, and I still stand by the fact that he did not actually have intercourse with her. You got two different sides to the story, right? Because Rhaenyra is saying that she didn't, and of course she's lying because she wants to stay innocent, but then you got Daemon who's saying, yeah, we did, but that's his ego talking. Not to say that anything that they did was right. Neither of them are innocent in this case, if you ask me, but I do kind of look at this, and the more I process it, there's a lot of tragedy going on there too in both of them, and it's very sad to me. There's a lot of sadness there the more I think about their relationship, their dynamic, what they've been put through. They're kind of forced into their positions, honestly, and it's all this big political mess that's kind of forcing them into this position, right? The episode really started with a lot of humor with Rhaenyra, right? Because that stuff I thought played very funny. All the men who are actually losers kind of lining up wanting to take her hand, and it's interesting to me because it really does force Rhaenyra into the position that she eventually ends up in, if you ask me. Not force, like nobody's holding the sword to her throat and saying go have sex with your uncle, but it really, on the same hand, I could see where the pressures are coming from within Rhaenyra and why she eventually chose to do what she did. I was listening to the writers talk about the moment, and they did say that Daemon experienced impotence, because Daemon, and it makes a lot of sense to me that this guy gets off on the fact of doing the wrong thing, and when Rhaenyra is also excited about doing the wrong thing, it does let him experience impotence, right? It forces him to experience impotence, and that's a really twisted guy. I do feel like he's trying to live up to Viserys. He feels like he deserves the throne. You understand where Daemon's coming from, and you know why he does the things he does, but he's also a train wreck, and he won't stop being a train wreck until he gets what he wants, and he doesn't care about nobody and nothing. And I thought it was a real interesting play where you have Daemon corrupting Rhaenyra, but Rhaenyra corrupts Viserys in a way, right? Because what happens to Rhys Ifans at the end. But honestly, this is my favorite episode of the show so far. I thought the tension building was in there, and it was present in such a big way, and I was very surprised by where the storylines ended up going, understandably so, right? And this is one of the most insane episodes between Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon that I've ever seen. Not the most insane, but one of the most insane. But it's also so very character driven, and I couldn't help but feel the tragedy within Lady Alicent's life, right? Because she is still kind of experiencing the same tragedy of Rhaenyra on the other side of that. A lot of that's laid out in their conversations, right, without actually coming right out and saying it. It's just honestly in Lady Alicent's face expression when Rhaenyra is kind of talking about how unfortunate it is that she can't find a man, and then on the other side of that you have Lady Alicent, who didn't have that choice. You really do feel bad for her when you're seeing what her and King Viserys have to engage in this, and it's really sad and tragic. She's so young, and honestly, this is the time period I guess they're trying to tackle, or this is what it was like in the time period that they're trying to tackle here, which is kind of a fake time period. But honestly, there was a time when women didn't get to choose that, right, in our own world, and this really relates to that in a big way. And I thought the messages and stuff in this episode were just powerful and awesome, but on the same hand, there's all this corruption and the realization that when Rhaenyra acts on what she acts on in this episode, that we might actually be following the villain. Like, Rhaenyra could be kind of coming up to be the villain of this show, and that's really interesting to me too. We don't know that yet, but there's an inkling I got for the first time that Rhaenyra can actually be the bad guy in this whole situation, and a lot of it's going to be Daemon's doing, and Daemon will pay. It'll take a while. I'm sure it's going to be a lot like King Joffrey. Took 4 seasons for that guy to die. I think Daemon's going to get that at some point. I do feel like the king is going to suffer the consequences too, because he's kind of under this influence of Rhaenyra right now, and it's very interesting. I felt terrible for Rhys Ifans. You know, I don't love his decision with his daughter, but you also understand the implication of the time period, right, when he makes that decision. And while I don't love that decision from him, I think he is the most loyal to Viserys. This is a tragedy, this episode. This whole thing, when you really dive into it, it feels like, on the surface, maybe the incest episode. But I don't think that's what it's trying to get across. I think it's really trying to dive into these characters, give them a further study, and show you the tragedy. When you really start to look at it, there's a lot of sadness kind of going on here. And while Rhaenyra didn't take her experience and do the right thing per se when she slept with the knight, I was at least happy she did that with somebody that she had a connection to. It seemed a little bit more moral than what she was doing with Daemon at the brothel. We also got the sense of, you know, Rhaenyra's still a child. We're constantly reminded of that. And her sense of adventure, right? She gets so excited when she finds the map. Immaturities are doing her no favors. And there is a connection that was set up in the show between her and Daemon, but the show stays unpredictable to me. It's wild. I mean, it wasn't until they got into the brothel I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. The show again is diving into these characters further, showing you tragedy. This is a tragedy, this episode in particular, and I really loved it for that. This is actually probably my favorite of the series so far. It has to be. It built the most tension, had the most betrayal, corruption, and now we have so much corruption going on within the system. And Rhys Ifans, I mean, I really do believe his character is definitely loyal. I do. I don't think he was trying to undermine the king. I thought he was trying to do the right thing. That's how I read it. So I don't look at King Viserys' perception as truth. And that was a lot of, again, Rhaenyra's corruption to the king. She's got a hold over her father like he would never believe. He would never choose to believe that. In his mind, Rhaenyra's pure. And he'll go to any length, as we saw with the tea at the end, and we'll put quotes around that tea, the kind of lengths he'll go to keep her pure. So in his mind, he could sleep at night, right? And I think Lady Alyssa, this is just my theory, is going to end up giving Viserys his due. Probably sooner than Daemon gets his, because she's not going to be able to take that for much longer. And I don't think that's going to sit right with Rhaenyra. Anyway, guys, that's my take on House of the Dragon episode 4. What did you guys think of the episode? Please comment below. Let me know. I really am curious to hear your theories, your thoughts. I think this was a very major, pivotal episode of the show. Guys, before you take off here, please help us out. Hit that like button below. Subscribe to the channel. Leave some feedback in the comment section. Share this with your friends. Hit that bell for notification. Also, when you subscribed, comment below in the comment section saying, I subscribed, and then I will answer any Game of Thrones question that you might have, or House of the Dragon question you might have. I would really love to hear from you guys. So yeah, let me know. Once again, I've been Don Martino. Feel free to follow the social media pages right there at the bottom right, and I will talk to you guys later.